way to pass the guard that's one of my favorites is called the knee cut pass, also known as the cross knee or the knee slide pass. It's really useful when you go right up the middle of your partner's guard. This is especially useful if he decides he doesn't want to stack you, like maybe you went for the double under stack pass and he did a common response called a heavy leg. I think the knee cut pass is the keystone between a lot of different passing positions. Some people love to pass from their knees, some people love standing. When you use the knee cut, you use a kind of modified squat position that allows you to go to the knees if you want to, or to stand and back off to pass in a different way if you want to. Very important to get good at this pass. So if I'm in Dave's guard, when we open the guard, remember the last thing we want to make sure we do is get our knee up into what's called combat base so he can't reclose the guard. This is also going to help us enter the knee cut pass position. There are a couple of reasons that I would try a knee cut pass. First of all, if I go for a double under pass, a lot of times my partner is going to heavy leg because they don't want me to stack them. But by stopping that pass, he creates all this space up the middle, which is going to allow me to go that way. I'll show this from a couple of different angles so you can see the knee placement as well as the hand placement. The first thing I like to do here, and this version that I like to teach works both gi and no gi, so we're not going to be making gi grips today. You can use gi grips to help do this pass effectively, but that'll be a topic for another video later. I'm just going to take my hand palm down and touch Dave's hip bone here. The reason that I want to do this is if Dave tries to engage this leg and get it in front of me, now I can block with the elbow. If he's able to get his knee in front, he can create a knee shield guard or other kinds of guards that stop my advancement and initiates his offense. So just put your hand palm down on his hip. Second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come inside his knee with my other palm, step over his leg. Remember, when you hear the guard, I just want you to hear the legs. So primary thing with defeating guards is often beating the legs, first the feet, then the knees, then the hips. So my knee, as you can see, is cresting his hips line. In a moment, I'm going to drop it to the mat. Dave Camarillo once called this the battle zone to me, and I've always remembered that. If I can control this space with my knee, my hand, or my body, then I'm almost always going to pass. If Dave can control this space, he's almost always going to successfully defend the pass. So in order to occupy that space, three things are going to happen at once. My knee is going to go to the mat. My head is going to come to the near side of his head, and my arm is going to shoot for an underhook on the far side. We don't necessarily have to win the underhook, which we'll get into maybe later, but we can't lose the underhook, because if I lose the underhook, he can come up and take my back, or at the very least escape. So three things happen at once. Knee to the mat, underhook, head to the far side. You'll notice that I'm not quite past the guard yet. I still have this hook. The reason for this is I want to solidify my position and flatten my partner out before I proceed. Three ways that I flatten him out. First, the underhook on the far side is good for flattening. Second, I can use my head to turn his head the other way using his chin. If you just turn your partner's head the other way, it's very difficult for him to bridge into you. The head leads the way, the body wants to follow, and so he could bridge that way, which wouldn't get him anything except for a guard pass, and he can't really bridge into me to defend the pass. The third thing, I'm going to come over the top and grab his gi, or grab his armpit, or grab his tricep, pulling it right into my armpit. You can grab the gi, of course, but we're not doing that today because this pass works both gi and no gi. All three of these things, the far side underhook, the near side overhook, and my head control, help keep him flat. If he's flat, he can't effectively defend the pass. To finish, I'm going to turn my near hip, my right hip to the mat, and bring my knee up parallel to his ear. Notice that I'm getting under his arm so that when I pass, he's not going to get any kind of frames that will help him escape before I can solidify the position. I can hang out in this position, which is called keisagatame or scarf hold. A lot of wrestlers, judo guys, and jiu-jitsu guys really like this position. Nothing at all wrong with it. Or I can turn my hips down into a traditional head and arm side control. And you notice that by doing so, I dismantle Dave's frames so that he can't control distance. And I dismantle his frames before he has the chance to get them in. Let's look at that from a different angle. So from a more head-on angle, my knee is up, so he can't close the guard. If there's a lot of space here, I'll just go right for the knee cut. So maybe I'll just go right into it. Or if you start with the double under pass and he's like, I don't want that to happen, that creates space up the middle. My hand comes to his hip, so he can't get this knee in front to give me problems. My other hand pushes down so that I can step over this leg. And I come into just a little modified squat. Two things you don't want to do. You don't want this leg to be straight, because if this leg is straight and Dave gives me a shove, I'm just going to go over on my butt, right? I don't have any base here. You want it to be like a shock absorber, so that whether he pushes with his knee, pushes with his hands, whatever, you can sort of ride with it and absorb that shock. Once we're here, three things happen. Knee to the near side, head to the near side. This arm goes for the underhook. If I come and Dave gets the underhook, he can come up on my back. Very, very problematic. If that happens, I'm gonna have to back out and reset. I can't let him have that underhook. So we don't necessarily have to win with the very strong underhook, but we can't let him have it. So my knee goes to the mat, I fight for the underhook on this side, and my head comes to the near side. I'm gonna gently turn his head, and Dave, can you try to bridge into me, please? See how much power he has, just because his head is turning that way. I take this arm, and I'm cupping just under the tricep, and I pinch my elbow in tight. Now, Dave, can you try and get on your side? Really hard. And if his back's flat on the mat, then we can come through for our case of Katame, circle to our regular side control, and as you can see, I've already killed these frames before they start. The knee cut pass is really powerful on its own, and it also works really well in combination with other common passes. So that if your partner is threatening, if your partner is stuffing your standing passes, or if your partner is stuffing your passes on the knees, you can use the knee cut to set those other passes up too, but it works great on its own.